We're hitting the primal button for people. When we talk about things like this, when we talk about murdering children and sodomizing children, skinning children alive, when we talk about, killing babies and having to eat them, when we talk about those things, I mean, you're putting the listener into the water with the shark. Okay, they're circling. It's that raw primal instinct of can't do it. That doesn't condone it. Okay, I'm not in any way condoning it. What I have found over the years is a lot of the information is being taken in for voyeurs. And I don't mean that in like they're pedophiles. I'm talking about just everyday people where they're taking it in and nothing changes in their life. Nothing changes. And I've shared with many friends over the years, good friends, good people, intimate friends. And I've told them all, until the bottom falls out from under you and your life changes, you haven't gotten it yet. You haven't gotten the fact that ritually abusing and sacrificing our young, which has been going on for eons, as long as we do that, the Luciferic, the Ahrimanic, the Asuric, they rule. And they will continue to rule. We will continue as a society to devolve. There's no stopping that. You can recycle all you want, and that's a good thing. And you can be kind to others, and that's a good thing. But until we halt that, until the masses come out and say no more, we will continue to devolve. And honestly, that's what I'm witnessing around me, is this slow, not so slow anymore, devolution into unconsciousness. I call it, some of my friends talk about the new consciousness, and I talk about the new unconsciousness, the level of what we've seen. And for example, with COVID, this is MK Ultra on steroids. There's a difference between trauma-based mind control, big difference between trauma-based mind control and conditioning. They can go together, and trauma-based mind control uses conditioning, but it becomes literal mind control programming, when it crosses that point where you can start splitting the mind. But society, global society, is under extreme levels of conditioning. And we haven't quite jumped to mind control, but it's right around the corner. And it's so interesting to me, several things that came up in early deprogramming were almost prophetic. I didn't think I'd be around long enough to see things. And one of the things that one of my alters said was, they're coming for all of you. And this is how it's going to happen, which is fascinating watching what's going on. She said, this is how it's going to take place. One day you're going to wake up and you're going to do what you always do. And you're not going to know that you completely lost all free will, that you have completely handed it over. It's just life is going to go on. And I see that happening with people around me who have completely given them over their sovereignty. They didn't have any, I don't think, to start with, but they've just given it away. And they want to be told how they should be and what they should do. And that is mind control. I mean, it's like I said, it's still just extreme conditioning. Everybody hasn't lost their choice. When you lose your choice, and that's what happens in MK Ultra, that's what happens in trauma-based mind control, you lose the choice. It's not you out there doing, it's a part of you out there doing it, but you have now no free will. They take your will. And that's what they're attempting to do, in global society. And I've seen some things come across, things sent to me recently, and that's what came up was, until a vast majority of people raise holy hell about what's taking place in the world, we're going down. We're going in that direction. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, humanity's not going anywhere. Okay. There's those that will choose the right path and those that will choose the other path or not choose at all and just go that path, which is, I think, a part of what's happening now. But we will split. We are splitting. Here, I would like to say a couple of things about it because I had very conscious experiences in deprogramming. But you could be in a crowd and they'll single you out and you're having an entire experience and no one around you will be having that experience, nor will they believe you. And I actually had the experience. This was one of the problems. I don't know if they've worked this out, but I actually had the experience one night. There was something that would happen when I was moving into that deep state of sleep. And sometimes I would catch it. There's this forced exhale, like, where they're going in and they're hooking us up and with what they call psychic warrior. There's a person on the other end. This doesn't always have to happen this way anymore, by the way. Okay, it can be all AI algorithm. All AI algorithm doesn't have to have a person. But my experience was I actually split second saw through his eyes. He was sitting in front of a monitor. It was really large. It was way across. And there was a stream of data flying from left to right. And I realized afterwards, it was just split second. It was as if I was standing actually behind him, saw him hooked up. He had electrodes hooked up. His eyes, I believe, were closed. And I realized that first of all, it was like, a computer that, not like our computers. And secondly, this was a readout. This was a graph of what was happening between us. And early on, I had several encounters with others that I was in a group mind situation with. All experimental, I'm sure. And the way I looked at, there were several things that happened. And like I said, one night I lost the fear and I sat up in bed and I felt something turn on in my eyes and it scanned the room through me and then it shut off. So there's like amazing weapon systems that they have in place now. And I could tell you some really bizarre stories of some MKUltras. They're lifers that are now in full remote technologies and you wouldn't believe what's going on. I mean, it's at times hard to tell what's real and what's not. It's gotten to that point. So this is the new version. Okay, I mean, this is the case. 2 examples, Cliff High and what's the other guy's name? 2 radio hosts who have been, awake for years, doing podcasts for years, said that during COVID, they're driving down through town and they start to pass the CVS pharmacy and a little voice in their head or a thought says, no, you should go in and get a vaccine. Now, these are 2 guys that completely know what's going on. And they came forward and talked about this. So think about all the people that don't know what's going on, have not a clue. And they went and got the toxic shot that isn't a vaccine. It probably in the millions of people that could be told to do this. So you can see where this is going. And I just want to state in one of these cases, this person that I know, who is, I would say, on the cutting edge of the new technologies. Let's put it this way, there's a dark web version with mind control, directed energy weapons of porn, where people can actually, how would I say, people can sign up and they'll experience it with him. It's not just a visual. And this is all through remote technologies.
Wow.
And this is the way this guy's has been living for years. This has been going on, I think, over a decade now for him. So you can, I'm saying that because you can see where what we went through is taking on a whole new level of virtual world, but where you're full on participating.
I just want to say, Elisa, you're spot on, like that description of what Cliff High had spoken about. And I hadn't heard Cliff High speaking about that, but my friend Dale Holmes, he does sort of interviews and things, he mentioned that he felt this voice come in, or he's definitely not going to take any kind of shot, but he had that, and he spoke about that publicly. And I had it about 2 weeks beforehand. Just this thought that came into my head, and a dopamine release at the same time. Somehow they had released dopamine to make me feel very, like that's the way, isn't that wonderful? And immediately it was like, oh my God, where the hell did that come from? I'm never going to do that. It was full on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they use cell phones. So this smartphone that everybody has that they want everybody to have. And so that this smartphone that everyone now is addicted to can put thoughts in your head and emotions in you. And I don't know if you guys remember, but during the COVID time, there was this mad rush where people ran out and bought all the toilet paper out of the stores. Well, that was pulsed out just to see what percentage of people will do this.
Yeah, trying to let people know that smartphones have a small HARP antenna in them. Okay. Yes. It's not the same as the other things. It actually has a small HARP array in it because it was designed not as a convenience, but as a weapon. And it's not about taking your data. It's about what they can send through. You're absolutely right. They don't give a hoot about all your data. They just, look what happened in Lahaina. How many smartphones and smart materials were set on fire and burned those houses down to nothing? It could be lasers from above, but they could set the phone off too. It's
an incendiary device. It's got a lithium battery in it. It's, it needs a big bang, a bit of water, and it's off.
Right. Right.
So validating hearing you ladies talk about this. That's, in my opinion, all of this stuff is generally hard for people to accept, but the directed energy weapons, targeted individual technology side, people are just, they'll maybe look at human trafficking, but they'll laugh at anybody who says that. And even the survivors that I've had on my podcast that are TIs, they're met so warmly by the community, but that's been the hardest topic for me to get in front of people that are just waking up or who are, trying to learn about all of this. It's just because it's like an invisible abuser, and I think that that's so hard for people to comprehend, so that's so validating. I know that survivors listening and people listening are going to be so grateful that all three of you validated that. Yep, you're good.
And they've used psychology forever to do similar things, so if people want to go research the Milgram experiment, in a nutshell, 65% of volunteers were willing to give what they thought was a very high electric shock to the person. They didn't know this was part of the experiment. 65% were willing to give shocks that might kill another person because authority told them to, right? And all through time, they've done all kinds of experiments on us psychologically, and it's not exactly the same, but they have used trauma to fragment the collective human population in the form of wars and all kinds of false flags and famine and poverty, which is engineered and not necessary. So they have constantly kept humanity in a state of trauma over and over and over again. And just like the individual, we dissociate and we split that off and have amnesia for it for a while. So people aren't learning through history because of this phenomenon. And then when the splits happen, the subconscious is right there to be programmed, and then enter education, enter the media, and all these pharmaceuticals, vaccines or pills, they're part of the programming as well. So this has been done from every single angle, but Elisa's right. Now with technology, they don't need to go to the lengths maybe they went to with us. It's there, and it's invisible. And I was trained, I have a photographic memory as well, which served me really well through school. But now that memory is going to be an asset that I can use to affect change and good things in the world. So there's also, you look at all these people here, and they've been through horrors and terrifying things that are that shouldn't even exist, that are unspeakable, that are beyond what people can imagine. And here are three of us, just 3 out of the 50, sitting here talking to you. And I mean, I'm not saying that I still am not working on myself every day, but here we are, and we're using our voices. So I think it shows the resilience of the human spirit as well.
What about you, Rachel and Elisa? What were both of you recognized for? What was your job, or what were I know, Rachel, you had said sort of the psychic side.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear, because I think that's fascinating too. We're not taught about our bodies, not just trauma. We're so grossly undereducated about how our body handles extreme trauma, but also these beautiful gifts, like the capabilities of our bodies. And it's so sad that in these systems, it's like the more gifted you are, the more you're tortured or the more you're exploited. It's horrific. But it is a beautiful thing to be able to learn from you and to say, oh my gosh, like our bodies are capable of these things and we can use them for good in the world and we can hone them. And like you guys were saying, they're weapons that were used against you. And now you can, hone them and use them against anything that comes in your path and use them as a strength and take them back for the godly purposes, the divine purposes that you were born with to use them for. So I'd love to hear, what were you ladies? What are your gifts and how have you utilized them in these beautiful ways that that I know that you wanted to take them back and use them for?
Well, in my circumstance, I was under the theta program, so I was used as a remote viewer, and I was also used to pick up soul frequencies of people. But they also trained me to have or perhaps I just had a photographic memory, I'm not sure. I'm also, exceptional. If I hear a voice, I know who that person is. And I speak to, I do psychic work for a living. And so when someone rings me and I know I've spoken to them before, I'll know straight away that I've spoken to them before, because I have an ability to pick up on the sound frequency and relate that to that particular individual and their story, their timeline in the Akashic record as well. So one thing that the MK Ultra people when they were experimenting on all of us, their main interest is intergenerational trauma. So many people in other generations before me were traumatized. They like military backgrounds. They look for psychic ability in families to exploit. They're particularly fascinated by psychic ability. This is why there is fluoride in many of the countries that these programs take place. They put fluoride in the water, in the toothpaste, and wherever else they can try and put it, because it calcifies the pineal gland, which is our antenna to spiritual communications. And we all can have that access to that. It's just that if it's occluded through abuse or through, fluoride or anything else, and this, apparently pesticides do the same thing to the pineal gland, then it's going to be occluded, and you're not going to get that spiritual information. Instead, you're trying to get your information through the government or through the news or through some other channel. So I was used in many ways to spy on people as a child, which I feel guilty about now. So very much what Elisa was talking about, I was a weapon, but they also weaponized me in other ways, which I haven't spoken about publicly, but it made me very dangerous. And again, I think possibly that's why they don't bother me now. I mean, I've had paid trolls who've gone to great lengths to try and discredit me. And it was brilliant because it gave me that extra incentive, because I am so stubborn and obstinate and determined. It actually fueled me putting out the evidence that I put out, which is irrefutable, and they've shut up now.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And what about
sorry.
No, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, one thing I know is I was definitely trained as a seductress, a sex slave. In the circles I grew up in, I speak several languages. I have these I've these social skills. So I was trained to, and then paired with a photographic memory to seduce and all that. I was telepathic. I mean, I think all of us actually are. It's just been dumbed down, but I was highly telepathic and mostly in a feeling sense. So there were a lot of experiments where people would be tortured or animals in front of me, and I would feel every ounce of it. Yeah. And as far as other things, I'm still kind of putting that together, but I suspect really mainly the sex slave with the languages and the photographic memory were one of the things among politicians and people like that.
Well, for me, what I noticed as I went into deprogramming was I had this ability to very much read people around me. And however, I will stay, how would I say this? There are certain things that belong to altars that I no longer have, certain abilities and skills and so forth. And I go out on this limb, and I always have from the beginning. A lot of those belong to the entities that were running my altars. And so when I cleared, which took whatever length of time for various altars, but when I cleared, a lot of that went away. And that was actually a very painful process for me. It left a feeling of vulnerability, a void in me. And I saw how it's very tempting, and I've known many MK Ultras, many survivors, it's very tempting to want to hang on to that. And I've seen some people who really don't deprogram because they want to hang on to what that entity running the altar brought. And that's what I went through. My thing was being able to engage in full consciousness and deprogramming various entities that unfortunately they weren't the good kind. But a variety of experiences over the years, and it can still happen. It seems, I don't feel like an adept or like I'm, controlling all this. It's rather random. And I do believe there's purpose to some of it now. There's been this change in, I'd say, the last few years where I feel, I'm thinking of some very particular experiences where I feel as though I'll call it my angel that meets with me all the time, that it is kind of guiding these interactions now because they're not the same as what they were early on. In early deprogramming, I felt like I was still being attacked and trying to be brought back under, and I was still fighting, and I don't do that anymore. Now I'm learning. And so I believe things are being brought to me sometimes because I don't know them and I don't understand them. And it's very important for my particular journey and to understand what's happening in this world, what's behind what's happening in this world. So I've just been a very big advocate of, I have altars, there's systems of altars, at least 2 systems, probably more, I don't know, but and that those altars there are entities that gain access to those altars. And in my opinion, programming doesn't even happen unless the entities are involved. It wouldn't stick. They can do whatever they want, but if those entities don't come in, for me, then it doesn't work. And that was the process of how I got out or began deprogramming, was addressing not only the altar, but what was running it. And once that was out of me and not running me anymore, the altar couldn't run me, and some of the abilities that these various altars had, which were extraordinary in some cases, because they weren't, maybe as evolution goes on, some of these abilities will be there. I believe that's very, very real. But in this time, for me, and in this state of consciousness, it was being brought into me by the entities. That was very clear to me.
Wow.
And I'd say these entities, when I was below the Vatican witnessing these rituals, the sacrifice of the children was to bring in demonic entities into the people's bodies, and they willingly replace their organic God-given soul with a Luciferian entity because they're promised all kinds of material wealth and fame and power and all that. So, and the way I can describe them, they're not corporeal, but I could see like a smoky dark shape, and mainly I felt this blood curdling cold. It was so cold in the room when they would come in that it was unbearable. So because also people have said to me, well, how can people, human beings can't like rape a baby and, skin a child alive and all these things. Well, they're not exactly human beings, so that's the answer to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. This is, and it's fascinating to me that, all these elite that are either raised in the family or give consent. Here's the irony. They're under total mind control.
Yeah.
They are completely under mind control, doing all I watch people like Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates, and who's probably MKUltra, Elon Musk. I watch these people, and the women too. It's not just men. I want to make that really clear. As a matter of fact, sitting on that throne down below in the occult world, that's a woman, baby. Okay, that is not a guy. So we'll even it up with the sexes, but it's like this is mind control. Now that doesn't condone what they're doing. Don't get me wrong, but this is mind control. Possession is mind control. You're being controlled by an entity. I know, I know what this looks like and feels like. I experienced it in deep programming. I'm this 1 minute, and now I'm this, and I'm witnessing it. I mean, it was like, wow. Even facial changes. I saw facial changes. I remember walking by a mirror after being severely triggered by someone that I was programmed to, and had to do a double take because I'm not quite sure who I just saw in the mirror. So I got the opportunity to see that. And I mean, this is real. Like you said about the feeling in the room. Oh my God. I mean, it is hair-raising. And so, and know that the variety is legion. Okay. There's a hierarchy. There's the high level ones, but they go all the way down to just parasites, which I have witnessed in deep programming trying to attach to me, just a parasitic entity. So the scale is huge till you get up to the real high level. The high level beings. And it's my opinion that everybody is walking around with entities attached and sucking off them, and because we're not all evolved yet. We're not all we haven't moved into that place of our consciousness, our mind matched up with our heart. We're not quite there yet. So this is the journey, but it's influencing all of us. It's just to what degree and where does that entity fall on the scale. And when you get up to the higher levels, you're talking possession. And possession is mind control. I know that for a fact.
And the reason they bring these entities in is not just for power and not for, that esoteric knowledge in this dimension. It's because those entities, the hellish realms are predatory. So souls can be consumed by more powerful souls in the predatory hellish realms. So they either don't want to leave the earth plane at the death of that soul might have left a human being, doesn't want to leave the earth plane, will attach to somebody else, worked through them, and then try to amass as much death and destruction as it possibly can to get to a lower frequency of power, so that when it ends up in the hellish realm, it's got a greater position. So there's a massive hierarchy involved. Yeah. That's what motivates a lot of these people and these souls that are working through them.
And these people need to understand, these guys know this. These groups know this. They know all this. We don't know it anymore. It's been taken away from us. They have all of it. But one of the things I discovered, just to give a sampling of this, I actually took out people in the network. That was the main thing. I'm not saying everybody was, but it took a long time to realize these were people that were in the network that for whatever reason became expendable. And what I discovered was that by anytime you have a violent death, anytime you have assassination, a murder, a violent death, and then think about the mass murders that have happened. But anytime you have that, the person gets locked in a realm of the earth at first. I don't know when and how they get out. But what these brotherhoods of the left-hand path know They can send someone out like me. I take somebody out violently. They go in this locked realm. And then they, through a series of rituals, can reach out to this person, this soul, and gain information from this side that they're not supposed to have on this side. And that was an incredible moment for me to realize that there was behind these murders was this esoteric purpose that they know about that people don't even know it exists. I mean, my altars didn't know. I was a soldier. I did what I did. And then there were moments when the memories came back, I was totally confused. Why did it have to happen like this? And because they know, those left-hand paths know exactly what they're doing. And when they get this information from this other side, it allows them to be 2 steps ahead of us.
It's a form of necromancy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'd love, if you ladies don't mind, I'd love to dig actually more into this, because I think too, like how all of you were saying, society has really left out that spiritual element. We're all but stripped and we're left with this physical element, and that's all that we know growing up. That's all the real world, consists of, according to what we're taught. And I think we can all agree that any type of child abuse is satanic in nature. It all is. But the difference between, say, satanic ritual abuse or ritual abuse and, other forms of abuse is that spiritual element, is the demonic side. I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit about what are some other differences between ritual abuse, or what do you guys want people to know about ritual abuse and satanic ritual abuse? It's definitely not talked about enough. There's still so many misconceptions, and this is a topic that I think if more people understood, then they'd have a better grasp of what actually goes on in the world, because this really does connect everything. It connects the divine with the demonic in a sense, and shows how, what Rachel was saying, where our frequencies, like, they know exactly what they're doing and how to attach demonic entities to us and how to keep us in a low frequency. And because society doesn't even know about it, they don't even know that they're in a low frequency. It's just normal to them. So I'd love for you guys to talk about, ritual abuse and satanic ritual abuse and what it is, whether that's through examples that you want to give from your own testimonies, just insights that you have. Max, you talked about some stuff whenever you're going through your testimony, but I think this is a really important topic, and obviously it's the focus of this whole docu-series, 50 Voices. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit more with you guys about the spiritual side and spiritual abuse and really what it is.
Well, I'd like to throw something out real quick, and that is, to me, any abuse that is ongoing is ritual abuse.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if it's, there doesn't have to be a ceremony or any particular belief system. You've got somebody that has been overtaken and influenced by some form of demonic to abuse a child, and to consistently abuse. So the satanic ritual abuse, I'm with Rachel on the aspect that this is much, the purpose behind it is much greater. It's much bigger of what the goal is. And I do like to throw out there too that, all these people being promised all these things, and, my line is, you're all expendable, baby. Lucifer, Ahriman, the Asuras, they don't give a hoot about you. And as soon as you're used up, that's it. You think it's going to be something really special for you. They think there's really something on the other side of the threshold awaiting them. And there is. There's something very special waiting for you.
Yes.
Right? But
yeah.
That's, to me, that's the difference between the two. Any abuse that's ongoing is ritual abuse. It's a ritual. It becomes a ritual. But the satanic ritual abuse, to me, I mean, I think there are low-level satanic groups that are just, these covens, and they're doing bad things or unwanted things. But then there's a much higher level where, to me, the people that are ruling what's going on, you don't even know who they are.
No.
Never heard their name. They might live down the street from you in that nice little house with the 10-year-old car. I'm serious. The true black magicians, they don't get off on being in the public. They don't want to be in the public. They want to have layers in front of them. So that world is a whole different ballgame. And for me, coming out of where I came from, I tried to find people who knew. I would explain in my layman's terms, this is what I know. This is the beings I've encountered. And the person that helped me the most is Dr. Rudolf Steiner, and anthroposophy. And it was the first time that someone knew from, he died 100 years ago, but he knew all of this. He knew what the true cosmology, the true metaphysics, the true layers of beings, good and bad, that's but in other words, adversarial and beneficial would be the proper way to put it.
And see, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say to Emma, COVID was a satanic ritual. 9/11 was a satanic ritual. So see, and they make it, they make movies and they make all this black magic and things like this seem insane and not real. They make it look fictional. But see, these entities feed us off of us etherically. And so they keep us in survival emotions. The lower frequency emotions is like a buffet, a banquet for them. So that's part of what, they feed off us literally as well, but they feed off us etherically. So, this sounds like science fiction, but like Elisa said, it is based on reality. So I'll let Rachel take it from there, but I just want to point out, we've been put through satanic rituals as a collective over and over and over again.
Yeah, we have. Well, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned before, Max, with the sacrifices that occur. So a lot of the ritual sites where these sacrifices occur are within the nexus of ley lines, which are large portals of incredible energy. And these fifth dimensional ley lines and portals allow access to all the other doorways to all the other dimensions. But in order to access one of those doorways, they have to kill something. Yeah. It opens that doorway. So the sacrifice has many different layers. There's the adrenochrome. There's the fact that they're so sadistic and they enjoy it. The screaming of the child brings the demented entities, the demonic entities, to the doorways, and then they let them in. And then they do whatever they want to do with them. But just to be able to get an idea of what these portals are like, they're various different kinds. And I've discovered ley line nexuses in my local area, and I've been sort of teaching people how to find them. But they create these nexuses of ley lines, create these big sort of energetic spaces, which are very, very powerful. And all of the monoliths in the world have been created in these portals that are these, nexuses of ley lines. So you've got the Oracle of Delphi, you've got Stonehenge, you've got all the major arenas like amphitheaters, great big amphitheaters. And a lot of these spaces, the Washington Monument, a lot of these spaces, if you have a look, they actually have a circular base. They've actually got a massive circle there. They're marking out the portal. They think we're so stupid. Yeah. We've got no idea what these people are doing. These big arenas are often circular or like a big eye. And that's where they get this loose energy. So this I think is why there's so many sacrifices. For instance, there's a place called Bathurst in Australia that's on one of the most powerful ley lines. It's also on the 33rd degree south. Now, the Freemasons are obsessed with the 33rd degree. The southern and northern 33rd degree latitudinal line, this is where a lot of the sacrifices occur. So Bathurst falls on that line, and there's a lot of sacrificial child sacrifice at Bathurst. It's a big car race. You get large crowds. And so that's how they open the portal to get the loose energy, because they do sacrifices leading up to it. So people need to keep an eye out for these monoliths in these big areas. And what we need to do is go to those spaces and meditate with beautiful, positive, loving energy. Those of us that are powerful souls, to negate what these dark souls have been doing on the earth. So they're trying to keep the earth's frequency down by doing this, but we can bring it up.
Yeah, and the Vatican's one of them, Rachel,
exactly.
With that round
exactly.
front.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Washington, D.C. and the Vatican are not part of any country. They're their own legal countries. So that's kind of a little interesting twist as well.
Mm.
And now they're affecting these vortexes with the technologies too.
Yes,
So
exactly.
they're keeping that energy. They're basically turning the earth into a machine.
Yeah, a student of mine pointed out that there's a 5G tower right near to where she found one of these ley lines, right next to it. So they're doing exactly that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. I think it is important just to separate what this is, because I mean, I know I wasn't taught, and it was devastating for me to find out. And I think a lot of people, especially the ones who are being willfully blind and the information's there, they just refuse to look at it. It's going to be really hard when these floodgates open and this information starts pouring out. And I feel like it's going to some degree or kind. It's going to be very, very hard for people to just get slapped in the face with all of this, and that's one of the things that I've loved about doing a podcast is it's sort of like helped me dip my toes and learn very slowly, and be able to absorb it sort of at a pace that's been good for me over a period of time. But this is going to be very hard. And I feel like information, knowledge is the defense against mind control. That's what defends us against it. And so understanding this, then it's like, then you can see it in the real world, just like what you were saying, all of you with COVID, or with 9/11 or whatever it is, we can look at it with a critical eye and say, I know what they're doing and I'm not going to participate in it, or I know what that is and I'm not going to let it affect me how they want it to. I'm not going to live my life in fear. I'm going to go to these places and pray and have a more, bring the frequency of the earth up and the people around me, because that's the other thing. So many people are so stuck in that fear and that anger from the conditioning that Elisa was talking about, that they don't even know that that's not normal. They don't realize that they're acting like the enemy. They think that the solution to the problem is what started it to begin with. They're all of a sudden violent and angry, just like how the enemy is, and we don't realize that we're going in this circle and it's just, the vibration's just going down. So I want to ask all of you, in a perfect world, if you had all the resources, everybody behind you, all the capabilities, how do we stop this? How would you stop it in your perfect world? What would it take to stop satanic ritual abuse and mind control and all these disgusting and horrific crimes against our children?
I'll go first. My view is that this is really about the individual. This is really about our individual path that winds up being a collective path eventually. And I don't believe I'm going to stop it. Okay. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing what I need to do so that those that are ready, maybe not the masses, but those that are ready, and there are a lot of people doing something for those people that are ready. I know a lot of people doing this in different areas, but I don't see it. I mean, I don't see it as I'm going to stop it. It's big. And I'm not talking about just the mind control aspect of trauma-based mind control or even directed energy weapons, but what's behind this manifest into our world through big pharma, through the tech industry. I mean, it is massive. You see it every now and then. You get a glimpse where this corporation and this massive corporation, the two massive corporations, are now one. That's how it's going forward. And my belief is that I'm not going to stop what's going on out here. And this was from my personal journey, because my personal journey was, I can't fight that. I have to take back my soul forces. That's what I'm here to do. The only way I'm getting out, so to speak, if there is such a thing, there's no retirement in my opinion, is that I have to take back my soul forces, because they'll always outgun me. I mean, they've got it all, right? They've got the directed energy weapons, they've got so I went from sodomy and drowning and torture with electro cattle prods to directed energy weapons. In other words, that to me isn't the way. The way is that each of us individually, and then it will be collective, is to find their way through spirit and remain human, no matter what is happening around us, because the goal is to remove the human aspect, the human spirit. Rudolf Steiner said over 100 years ago, they will create a vaccine to remove the human spirit.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what this toxic cocktail is that has been flying around for the last few years. So to me, it's just, and that's our responsibility. All of us have allowed this to grow, to perpetuate, to go forward. So I believe it is an individual journey right now. I believe that it's individual consciousness that has to shift. I can't change that for someone. All I can do is show up, present what I know, present my path, and keep growing myself. I'm not there. I got a long way to go. I've got the harmonic double, just like all the perpetrators do. We all do. We're born with it. And I'm still overcoming that as well. So I believe there will be union and communion. I absolutely know there will, but we're gonna be up against it. It's massive. It's too big right now. So stopping. I mean, I don't like stopping 5G or something. I don't say that people who that is their mission to work that. I don't say that they shouldn't work that, because there's something to, that's what they're supposed to do. They're creating some kind of energy for that. But in my view, yeah, no, we're not gonna stop it. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna get immersed right through it, right through the middle of it. And we've got to remain human, and everything that means in a moral way. Choosing my thoughts and my perceptions that not only help me, but participate in the forward evolution of humanity the way it was intended. And I couldn't do that until I started taking my own soul forces back. And to me, that is the individual journey. We've all been spread out, whether we're MK Ultra or we're the guy and woman down the street. We all have that need to balance the good about us and the not so good about us.
I would say healing ourselves, putting all our fragmented parts back together. And that includes the fragmented part of us and the creator, that soul, that bigger soul that we are, that creative life force energy, God, whatever you want to call it. Healing is a revolutionary act. I mean, these people have thrown every resource imaginable and unimaginable at us. And so in a way that tells me that we have tremendous power. And we've been abused since the day we were born for generations. And yet, when I look out there, I still see people loving their children, helping each other. And that gives me hope, because that's what it is to be truly human. And so if they have gone to such lengths to destroy us and mind control us and devolve us, then that tells me that if we heal and if we put ourselves back together, and if we get the knowledge and know what's going on, that we could step into our power. And I think we have much more power within us than we realize. That's been, controlled and devolved in us. So I do think that's the journey, and if all of us do that, I do believe ultimately the light wins over the dark and love wins over evil. And we are inherently more powerful than these people. And so we just need to we need to heal and step into who we are and remember our mission. I came here to do what I'm doing now. And that is why I get up every day, and that keeps me going, and I don't care about anything else. And I believe all of us came here with a mission. So if you can put yourself together and step into your power, remember who you are, your mission, I think we're unstoppable at that point.
So I personally believe that the earth is like it's a school for souls. And we come into an earthly existence to either decide by choice whether to be altruistic or selfish in nature. So those that are very dark will end up in hell. Those that are light will end up in the heavenly realms. But in between times, the earth has been going through many, many different ages. We've had ages on earth that were actually very, very positive and beautiful, where a lot of this corruption did get destroyed. But we've also had many, many ages where the satanic elements were in power. We're obviously in the satanic power struggle at the moment. I do think that we can come out of this. It might take, as Elisa said before, it could take thousands of years. I'm such an optimist. I think that we're going to make big inroads in my lifetime because that's just who I am. But I think a big part of it is education. So I think that we are all a thorn in the side of the Satanists who tried to destroy us, tried to MK us. It didn't work. Here we are talking. I'm thriving. I'm a very happy person. So, and that is another thorn in their side, because you can thrive despite terrible abuse. You can come out the other end and say, didn't work. I'm doing really well and I'm going to continue to do well and I'm going to be an example.